Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar at Notes Code. We appreciate your time and we certainly appreciate the time of our presenters. Our subject today is customizing your IBM Connections, and this presentation will be done by Gayatri and Badri. They are from Marga Systems, and we just want to remind you that if you want to ask questions, if questions come up as we go along, simply type them into the GoToWebinar questions panel, and they'll be queued up and ready for the question and answer segment at the end of their presentation. Again, we thank you for your time, and without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Gayatri and Badri. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, the controls coming over to you.
Can you
All
see
right.
the screen?
We see your screens now.
Thank you very much, Scott, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Really great to have you here. So today's webinar is about IBM Connections customization. So before we start off, here's a quick intro to Marga. Marga, the name literally means Pathfinder, and Marga is a leading provider of enterprise collaboration and communication solutions for the past 10 years. We are a premium IBM partner with work being done on Lotus Notes, Domino, Connections, WebSphere Portal, and Quicker, pretty much all the IBM Lotus products. So we have our primary office in the US, in New Jersey, and a development center off in India, as well as partners in Middle East, Germany, and Europe.
Okay, everyone, we apologize. We're getting some audio feedback. Give us 1 second and we'll get this resolved. Gayatri?
Sorry
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yep, sorry about that. We had an audio issue, and it was giving us some feedback, some looping feedback. So maybe go back to introduce the presenters one more time. We missed all of that.
Okay. Sorry about that. So a quick introduction to myself. I am Gayatri, called Guy. I have about 15 years in the IT industry, and I've been working with the IBM set of products for quite some time now, and I manage operations at Marga Systems. Badri?
Thanks, Gayatri.
Perfect. Badri, I'm sorry, before you introduce yourself again, Guy, can I have you go back one more slide and tell us again what Marga means and what the specialties are? Because that got cut out as well. So I apologize. I should have had you back up to that slide before. So I apologize for the interruption. Go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Scott, for letting me know that. So Marga, really, the name means Pathfinder, and we are a leading provider of enterprise collaboration and communication solutions for the last 10 years. We are a premier IBM business partner and work with pretty much all the IBM stack products. We have offices primarily in US, in New Jersey, Ireland, and development center off in India, and we work with partners in Middle East, Germany, and Europe. And you did hear me talk about myself, and so over to Badri to have a quick intro of him.
Thanks, Gayatri. Hi, I'm Badri. I'm a Java lead here in the Marga Systems. I've been working in Java and Java-related technologies for the past 10 years. Of late, I've been working on Portal and IBM Connections.
Thanks, Badri. So today, What we are going to do is, while I'm sure that most of you have already taken a look at IBM Connections, what it is, but we will just take a very quick intro and look at what is the possibility of customizing IBM Connections and go very quickly into the branding, the widgets, and adding tabs, things like that, how to do that, and also look at how we can add a new application into IBM Connections and take a little bit of a look at an application that we've created and how it was actually created. So that's going to be a quick agenda for today. So before we start, here is the first poll, just to get an understanding of where you are with your IBM Connections in your organization. Scott, can you run the first poll, please?
Okay, here comes the first poll. We'll give us about 30 seconds for everyone to respond to this poll. And just a reminder, we are recording this so that you can share the presentation with coworkers, and this poll will show up and you'll be able to share it with them as well. All right, 5 more seconds. And great, let me go ahead and close this poll and I'll display the results. So it looks like a good percentages are already in production and a lot of us evaluating already and in pilot programs. Very good.
Very good. And on top of that comes the next poll as well, which just kind of gets a sense of how many people use IBM Connections in the organization.
All right, here we go with the next poll. Great. Everybody knows how to do polls very well. All right, we're almost up to 100% of the participants. 5 more seconds. A couple more still coming in. All right, we'll close this poll. I will share it. Okay, looks like the middle of the road, and looks like the pilot programs, of course, taking up the majority there at the bottom with less than 500 in evaluations, but looks like we have some great installs already.
Wonderful. So, thanks, Scott, for the polls and the poll results. So, since we did see most of you are already in production or pilot programs, so I'm just going to run through this very, very quickly. So, as you all know, this is the Web 2.0 social collaboration application from IBM. Now, the key is people are using IBM Connections, in very different ways, different organizations. But what we see is typically they build extended networks of employees, partners, customers who they can work with and create an extended community through which they can innovate faster and deliver results. And that's what we are seeing. And we see that these are the tools that they use when working with IBM Connections, where you have bookmark sharing, you have activities, profiles where you can very quickly identify people across different locations, different technology platforms, or different domains, and be able to reach out to them, understand what they are, and be able to connect. And we see a lot of connections used between profiles, communities, and bookmarks and blogs. And even if some people do not roll out activities, we see a lot more usage in these areas. So predominantly, why customize connections at all? They roll out a product, and is that not where it stops? So what we typically see is organizations, number one, want to have a standardized branding, a consistent branding across across all their internet and So they want to bring in the same message, they want to bring in the same branding, and so they want to apply those themes and look and feel and terminology and nomenclature to IBM Connections as well. So that's one area of customization we see a lot. The second area is, they want to kind of enhance the functionality. They want to add functionality to IBM Connections so that it kind of specifically suits their purposes. Now, a couple of examples there is, for example, to kind of encourage participation. We've seen one of the customers integrate with Badgewell, adding badges and gamification devices into Connections, kind of being able to give out badges when people post to a community and things like that. So these are enhancements to functionality itself. The third area we see is where they want to integrate the social into day-to-day business processes. So they may have a CRM, and they would want to have, so let's say the users of the CRM, when they do something in the CRM, post what's happening from there into Connections. Now that's something that that kind of an integration as well. And the fourth area where we see a need to customize Connections is to kind of map out Connections functionality to existing collaboration assets. They want to kind of map it out. So if in the organization, if it's called differently or if it doesn't exactly map out, activities are called, say, tasks, or different people, the way it should flow, if it needs to be different, and they want to make it work the way the users are really working in the organization, that's something they do. And also, they want to bring in, for example, they may have workflow applications with Lotus Domino, and they may want to bring those kind of applications into a seamless UI within Connections. And that kind of integration is also something that people may want to do. So these are different reasons why people look to customize Connections, different areas in which people look to customize Connections. So if you look at it, what can be customized really? And pretty much almost everything. So if you want, right from adding the data model, so let's say if you want to add another field in the profiles to track an additional data. So that's something possible as well. So it goes to the level of adding new data to the data model itself, all the way to the front end, the user interface, changing the colors, changing the schemas, changing the themes, any of that. And every aspect of the applications, like the profiles, the widgets, the blogs, and adding new tabs, adding a new complete application to Connections as well. So all of this is possible. So let's just take a quick look at the Connections architecture itself. Badri, do you want to take this?
Yeah. So Connections architecture is a J2E based social collaboration services to support the needs of an enterprise. Connections provides integration and extensible integration framework that allows individual features to interact when deployed. There are 5 lightweight independent features, and they are profiles, communities, blogs, bookmarks, and activities. Profiles are pretty much provides quick access to info about people. People can create communities of common interests and can share in an enterprise. Blogs is used to, individuals can blog where they can share content and thoughts. Bookmarks of different sites and readouts can be shared. Activities provide means to organize work, to plan and process tips for reuse. So IBM Connections provides features to various types of clients or standard web ports. They use an API called REST protocol, API based on the REST protocol and Atom standards. As we all know, REST API is similar to HTTP, and it uses the same transport layer as standard web servers. It is also compatible with other proxy servers also. Connections API allows information to be managed using post, put, and delete methods. The service document has been encapsulated in an XML item form. Information can be retrieved to the browser through the get method, and it is rendered as an XML document. In addition to these 5 technologies, you have some 4 common services. They are JMS administration, navigational header, person head, and user directory. So JMS administration is used to configure and manage Connections environment as such. Most administration functions are done using the WebSphere WSAdmin command. Navigation header allows all installed features to be aware of one another and provide consistent web navigation to the users. Person card is just like the business card information of the user's profile. User directory is nothing but the directory used by IBM Connections for authorization and authentication. The down part where we have the backend is typically the LDAP server that is used for authentication of profiles and users. We use the TDI called the Tivoli directory integrator. This extracts person's information from external sources such as LDAP and pushes it to the people DB, which is pretty much used by the connections as such.
So couple of more things. Underneath Connections is WAS. So it's WebSphere application server, and it follows all the overall rules of a WAS. So understanding WAS and how it works and how, like, backend DB2 works. These are, it need not be DB2, but a database and area is easier. And knowing that, you don't need to know all of that to customize Connections, but knowing that gives you an in-depth understanding of how the architecture is, and it kind of helps in the process as well. So on screen, you're looking at the default Connections look and feel. Once you install, this is what you're going to see. Fairly plain vanilla, but everything in here is customizable. So what are we going to see today specifically? We're going to add some branding. We're going to add new tabs, change the header and footer a little bit, and see how we can add widgets to the catalog. And then we are also going to work with Connections data in a custom application. So fairly simple stuff. Okay, the idea in adding branding. Let's start with the login page itself. Now, what you can see on screen here is a simple change where you can see that an address has been brought in and just a logo has been brought in. And let's take a look at how this can be done. But before we get started, right, on the WAS admin console, there's something called a Connections customization path. This pretty much says where is the customization path in IBM Connections. Now, what is this? Early versions, like in IBM Connections, we had customization when you had to do that, and when you had to upgrade, things used to get lost. And people, especially in the world of like Lotus Domino and things like that, if you had done mail template customization and then you did an upgrade, things could have been lost because of that. With IBM Connections, what we have is a specific path and an area which allows you to put all your changes in one area, which can then be backed up when you upgrade or when you change. So that kind of retains it. So you can see in the WAS admin console, the specific location. Find it in your directory, and this is how in the Connections directory, this is what it looks like. And so each of these, right, the activities, the blogs, bookmarks, common, communities, these are the folder structure under the customization folder. And what you put in here makes a difference, and that's how you customize your IBM Connections. And an additional setting that it's useful to be aware of is the Connections customization debug, which is a variable, and if you can change it to true in the WAS admin console, it kind of helps, especially when you're in the process of customization, when you're actually developing any of your changes and then you want to quickly take a look at it. This is a good place where it also gives you additional debug information, and it helps you, like, during the process. However, when you are going production, make sure that this is set to false so that it doesn't add the overhead. It does add a significant overhead, and so you really don't want to go live with this particular variable set to true. So Badri, you want to take over and show us how to customize the login page?
Right. So customizing the login. So these are the steps that we are going to follow. So Connections application is installed in the WAS, and the path is pretty much here. It's there in the WAS installed folder, profiles, the profile name, installed apps, the particular cell name, and the app that you need to customize. So you need to copy the login.jsp from this path to the customization directory, and that's how you do your modifications, add your branding and other things, and here you go. This is how you see the page. So I'll just move to the code and just show you how is this achieved. So basically I have copied this login.jsp from the install applications, and I have gone and added things which is pretty much selected here. I didn't go and touch the login, the username and the password fields. I just kept what was there earlier. All I did is I went and added my company's address, which is there. And the logo, it is here. So pretty simple.
Now, this is a standard JSP page, right, Badri? So it's like, it allows you to add whatever you want here, whether it's like if you want to add extensive HTML or more detail, and if you want to bring in a standardized like CSS or themes, and you can include it. It follows standards, and it allows you to do exactly the same way, if you want to create a JSP file. So it'll support all of that. Now the key is if you can retain your username, password fields as is. You don't want to try those, and then you can just change the rest of it to bring in whatever customization you would like to have.
So customizing the header. So this diagram has been taken from IBM developers article. So there is something called common customization. There are customizing every app, which I have taken profiles here as an example. You can pretty much add any app that is present, which is communities, activities, blogs, etc. There is the standard install content that is there, and on the right you see what the profile users see. So basically when you have a footer alone in the profiles customization, that kind of takes precedence over the common customization and the install component. So the profiles user sees the footer of the profiles customization. The same thing goes on the second line also, which is I have taken a header on the profiles customization. I have taken a footer on the common customization, and I see the header from the profiles customization and the footer from the common customization. So how do we do customizing the header? So the steps are here we copy the header.jsp from the installed apps, like how we did with the login.jsp, and paste it to the connections customization directory. Edit the file by adding the new link. I'll show you how to do that, and we restart the server typically in a production environment. So I'll switch over to the code and show you how it is achieved. So this is the header.jsp. What we have done is we have just gone and add an li which says connections tech. So which is here, and this is the li that we have. This one we have added extra. The other apps like the home, profiles, communities are all present above. I didn't go ahead and disturb them. So all these other codes are pretty much here. So you can add app menu by going and by going and adding the menu names, and we can even customize here. And this is the JSP that we need to edit for the apps menus.
So if you look at this, like it's pretty much, we don't go and touch the code, the installed content directly. Whatever both in the login and the header and the footer, as you saw, the first step is to actually make a copy of it in your customization folder, and then you modify there. And for example, in the case of header, now we saw how to add a link to the highest level. You can also change the menu items under, say, the apps, and you want to add a new link there. What you do is to customize the, if you look at the code there, there is another file called apps.jsp that's there under the nav templates menu folder. Now you can copy that into the customization folder and modify that to, if in case you want to add a new menu item into it. So pretty much it's fairly straightforward. Again, this is standard JSP code, nothing very complex about it at this point in time.
Okay, so next we try to add a tab in the content navigation. So we go ahead and copy the tabs.jspf from the installed apps to the connections customization path, add our tab, and be done with it. So I'll just go ahead and show the code. The code that is selected is the code added for the tab that is visible there.
Now again, the point to note is, since this is standard JSP, it can have functionality. Now, for example, let's say you want to, based on, you want to show or hide, or you want to make any functionality being brought in here. Who do you want to show a particular link to, or how you want to customize it? All of that is possible. This is standardized standard JSP code, and which runs. So at this point in time, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know who the person is logged in, and then you can actually, based on the person who is logged in, or what group they belong to, and any of those, you do have access to all of that information. So you can actually use that and write code, which will then, change the look and feel based on who you are or which community you belong to. All of that is still available. So at this point in time, we are just showing you where you can do it in terms of the tabs.jsp or the login or the header. But all of this, while we are just adding a link here, but this is not, this is just a precursor or starting point. You have the ability to change it based on kind of code that you would like to really write there.
So next we go ahead and add a tab on the getting started page. So pretty much the one that shows Marga systems. So how do we do that? So basically we use the WS admin tool for this. On the terminal, we just go to the app server profiles directory, execute the homepage admin.py Python script. We just have to follow these steps. So this is pretty standard, and we just do that. And we check. There's something called check out the file. So we do that by executing the command homepage self config.checkout getting started config file. So we check out the file. We add our steps. There's something called steps tag in that file. We add our steps. We add the link, and finally we check in the file. So on restarting, we will be seeing the Marga systems tab. That's shown here. So I'll be showing you the getting started XML file. How do we add the steps? So there were 3 other tabs, and all of them were enabled. We can enable or disable by setting this parameter to true or false. So the extra tab that we added called Marga Systems is right here, and this is the 3 steps that 3 lines of code that we write to use to enable the tab there. And this is what you see.
So far we just saw how you can change the look and feel, and how you can see and how you can add new tabs. You can add new menu items to IBM Connections. Now, if you look at the developer waivers in the wiki, there's a lot of detail. These steps are not very complicated. One of the key things that I would want to reiterate in terms of connection customization is the first step on all this processes is to kind of get a sense of what you want to do. Much before you put your hands on the actual coding and the changes, it really helps to have a clear definition of where you want to be. And this could be mockups done by your web designer, or it could be like, a set of, even if you just do, say, Go Mockingbird or one of your tools that you use, or even as simple as PowerPoint, to kind of define where exactly it needs to be, especially in case of branding, and go to the level of defining what is, let's say you want to have your corporate colors. So if you're knowing that, this specific header color, I would like to change it to my corporate color. This is how my links should look. This is where, the menu items should go. Having all of that laid out in completeness helps this process a lot, because then it is a question of going and implementing them very quickly and then reviewing it before you kind of roll it out. So after looking at the branding changes, let's take a specific look at adding some functionality to connections. Now, typically this is done using widgets, an easy and a straightforward way of bringing in specific functionality. It can also be done using adding applications, or integrating with other applications like XPage's applications from Lotus Domino. Especially about the XPage's application, Nicholas Heideldorf in OpenNTF has very good videos as well as snippets and OpenNTF projects available. I would encourage you to take a look at them. It gives you a sense of how you can integrate Lotus Domino applications, especially on the XPages, with IBM Connections and what kind of functionality that it brings to the table. So in the context of connections, pretty much what is a widget? It's a combination of HTML, XML, and JavaScript together creating a functionality that is provided. Now, it is not necessary that all of this is on your server, and it is not necessary. You could actually be connecting to, say, a service outside, or it could be, for example, in our example, we are going to take a stock widget that connects to a service outside to get some of the information and display it inside Connections. So that's how you can bring in functionality into Connections, but this could be functionality not even written by you. Where it makes a difference is, where does widgets come into play? So as a developer, you would need to create, or you need to source these widgets and add them to the widget catalog. And of course, you have the ability to let users define widgets, or you can restrict them and define it based on, okay, this set of users, they can only see these widgets on the UI, and then you can define it upfront, and then that can be pushed through. So to add it to the catalog is where the developer does most of the work.
So widgets basically have Dojo toolkit, and they run on the browser side. So if your widget server is deployed in the same network as your homepage server, which is your Connections, then it's directly taken. Or if it is outside the network, what happens is it goes via the proxy of the WAS WebSphere, and it gets the widget from there. So how do we add a widget to the Connections? So we go and create a folder called widgets in the HTTP server htdocs of your IBM, and this is the path shown here. So we intended to show the stock, and we create an XML called stock.xml, and the code of the XML is pretty much shown next time. So this is the code that we include in the widget, the stock.xml. We typically have a widget tag and an iframe tag that includes that has the URL of the particular XML of the widget. It is one of the Google widgets that's been taken from. So that's quite straightforward. Yeah, and this is how we get to see the stocks widget here, which is at the left of the screen. If we have to write our own widgets, so the two files that we have to create in the same location as the htdocs is the JS file and the XML file, which is shown here.
Can you show the JS file? So moving on, so again, widgets give you a way of bringing in functionality from outside, bringing in functionality that you can get it written independently and putting it all together. So it's not necessary that every functionality needs to be written up by you, or you have to prepare these, or if you don't have to code them. So you can look for functionality or customized applications which are relevant to your organization, and source them and put them together for giving the users an experience that they would need. So the way to do that is to add them to the catalog and then define what is being seen by which categories of users, and then provide it for them. So moving on, we are looking at one more area called connections applications, this is a little more. Other than like, the earlier functionality we saw was fairly straightforward. It just involved creation of XML files, and even if you were writing your own widgets, it involved creation of the appropriate XML and JavaScript files that can be put together. Whereas with connections applications, these are really, honestly, these are like JTV applications, which include multiple sets of files and code and that have been written together. In fact, profiles, activities, and communities, all of them are actually applications on top of the Connections platform. And similar to them, you can write your own custom application which can access the Connections data. It can access Connections functionality which the set of APIs provide. And the way to do that is to create your own var file, which is nothing but an archive containing all the code, the corresponding application code. It contains like your CSS or your look and feel code and your HTML. All of that put together becomes an application which can then be deployed inside Connections. So adding a new application to Connections, if you can take a look, in this particular case, we are adding an application called Connections Deck, which is then accessible through a link in the menu. So the place to put it is, if you can see the highlighted area, is the Connections customization folder, and under common area, you can put in your folder structure. And of course, either it can be, you can go to the level of, depending upon the complexity of the application, if it's fairly straightforward and simple, has just a few JavaScript files or your JSPs, you can just put them together in a folder structure, making it easy to maintain. If you can, it's not necessary to separate them as different folders, but it just makes it much easier to maintain if you follow a folder structure wherein you can separate out the front-end classes like your JavaScript, CSS, and images and HTML, and if you can separate out the actual JSP code. Now, this is a simpler case. However, if you have a lot of different functionality encapsulated, requiring multiple Java files, maybe libraries and things like that, now you may want to put them all together as a var file, which can then be deployed into the appropriate area. So do we show them? Okay. So going on, we're just going to have take a look at an application. Now, what are these applications? An application by itself can access Connections data using the Connections API. Now that's what we're going to take a look. And we're just taking an example of our POT, this proof of technology that we are working on, and we will show you what that does. And the key concept that we were looking at is today's end user is actually in a state of information overload. Now they have a lot of different things coming up their way. They have activity feeds, and they have messages, and they have a lot of different information coming into their way. Now we all know ADAS Scott?
Okay, we just broke up there for the last 10 seconds.
Oh, okay. So I was talking, can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can hear you fine now.
So we were talking about the fact that, if you just don't log on to Facebook for say 8 hours, and if you have been following quite a few people, you could actually feel very lost looking at the number of messages that have gone by and the number of conversations that have happened. And increasingly, organizations are also seeing some of this happen, especially like when you have a large network and different communities that you are participating. So the Connections deck that we are working towards as an application is just trying to create silos of information and silos based on what is most useful to that particular user. And underlying continues to be the RAS platform. The UI is based on Twitter's Bootstrap, which actually is a UI framework that allows for a responsive web design. Basically, what it means is, the UI itself, depending upon the sizes, the resolutions, it kind of changes itself. It allows you to provide a UI framework, and it gives you the ability to develop on top of that. Standard JavaScript, CSS, and HTML, which can then be customized for your own needs. Now, the connections deck, basically it's merging feeds from IBM Connections, profiles, communities, bookmarks, and different activities information from XPage's applications and other RSS feeds together in kind of a silo. Let's just take a quick look at it. So here is our customized connections we're looking at. So what we have here on screen, if you take a look, is actually the connections deck, where each of these silos show different information from communities and different applications. So on the right, where you see the app feed, is actually an XPages application where information from as data is being created as documents and coming out in a particular view, that gets populated into this. Now, where we see it's most used is like in our organization. Actually, this idea came about because our finance person said we have an application that tracks payments coming in, and he wanted a single place where he could see. He said, I have to go there into the application, see it. I have to go into a different community to see what's happening in my team's area and things like that. So we said, why don't we put it all together, because there seems to be a use case for this. Okay, let me just make sure that logged in. Okay. So if I look at the recent activities and click, there's a setting, and if you look at on the right where the list of communities are there, now this lists all the public communities as well as my communities, and I can choose which one I would like to follow. And this gives a list of profiles that I'm actually following as well. And based on the information, the UI updates itself, and by showing whatever is the new activity feeds, the activity stream, any bookmarks that are added, and any information or any kind of posts that are being made by people whom I'm following. For example, clicking on this opens my feed, which had like my profile, which had actually my activity feed updating itself. Let's go back to see how this actually has been created and the architecture behind it and how it can be done using the Connections API. So as I said, the UI itself is based on Twitter Bootstrap. It's a framework. It has a set of XML and JavaScript and HTML and CSS, which allows us, and it's built on top of this responsive web design concept, which can then be customized to bring in what we need. If you look at it, that entire UI we had created is based on the TweetDeck model, if you use TweetDeck as a service to post to Twitter. The integration point is using REST APIs. Now, we talked in the original connections architecture slide about Atom feed as a way and REST APIs as a connections mechanism where you can have data transfer between connections and your application. So that's what we are using. We use something called XQuery, which kind of takes the results of the API calls and then puts it all together and then showcases it as XML into the UI. And it can also connect, and the way it connects to XPage's application or other RSS feeds is just by using the RSS. So the reason for using, and I think this is something that we are seeing more and more, is to kind of use standardized toolkits that can help develop web applications and websites very fast. So as we said, Twitter Bootstrap includes the basic CSS and all the HTML. So it's that grid layout that it gives a lot, and then it gives you the navigation, it gives you the alerts and popovers and all, which are already predefined, so that it's much easier to create the UI that we need. And the key to this is this responsive UI design, wherein you have multiple devices, multiple resolutions, and multiple screen sizes to support, and this kind of is being encapsulated in a framework so that we don't really have to think about each of this and have to code separately for that. So the core to this is the IBM Connections API, and if you look at that, what it provides is kind of requests to services from other programs that integrate IBM Connections. So pretty much like, there are API interfaces to activities, blogs, communities, bookmarks, and profiles. Let's take a quick look at the code where it's being used. Go ahead.
So as you can see, we are using the Atom API provided by Connections. So it uses Atom here. We pass a particular community ID to get the list of communities. The community activities, bookmarks, feeds, blogs. We generally use the Atom API and get the XMLs, and we merge them as a single XML based on the date published, and we show it on the UI.
Now, a complete list of the API is actually available if you go to LDD, and if you go to, like, let me see if I have it available. Yeah. So if you actually go into the LDD lcwiki.nsf, which is the IBM Connections wiki, and go into the product documentation, it actually gives you a fairly detailed list of how to do this. And it also gives you the Connections API and all the possible API calls that you can use. And a couple of small things. There are some required post customization steps. Go through these because these are useful, which allows you to kind of make sure that when your users are, so after you have actually gone live, and then you want to introduce a new customization, and let's say the customization is to your themes. Now, we know that for making it faster for users, the browsers will cache the content and things like that. If you have to force the browser to refresh the cached content, then you need to make sure that you have to update the product version stamp. And this is a clear step-by-step procedure given in the wiki that allows you to do that. So this is a place where you can get more information and how to do this and specific step-by-step procedures on this. So before we conclude, let's have a quick poll again, Scott.
Okay, we'll start. We'll launch the final poll here. Great. So areas where you see most customization happening in your organization in terms of connections. All right, we get 5 more seconds. All right, we're going to close and show the responses. Branding, okay, branding and integration with other applications. So widgets, not so much right now, but I think that will come along as the applications start propagating. I'm not sure how you read into that, Guy, but that looks very interesting.
Definitely, and I think that's in line with what we have seen as well. By and far, most often than not, people want to make sure that the branding is right, and then they start integrating with applications, and especially organizations that already have Lotus Domino in their, and if they want to bring some of that functionality in, that's something that people we see are doing. So just a quick recap. What we did in today's webinar was to get a sense of what are the areas we could customize. We talked about branding. So we talked about how we can customize the login page, the header. We talked about adding new tabs. We talked about modifying the existing JSPs. And very specifically, we said we have to make sure that we copy it into the customization folder so that we can retain all this customization even when you upgrade by just taking a backup, and we can do a round of testing after we restore it. We talked about widgets. We talked about how they can be added to a widget catalog, and we talked about where to put in the XML files that we need to create and put that in. We then talked about how to add a new application, took a quick look at an application and looked at the Connections API and how the Atom feeds can be accessed and then worked with, the XML that we can work with. So hopefully that should have given you an introduction to Connections customization and how it can be achieved, where you can get more information. Most of it is there in the Connections wiki. It gives you a good information there. If you have any questions, now is the time when we can discuss that.
Okay, so if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them into the GoToWebinar questions panel, and we'll get this. We'll get the answers for you. One of the first questions out is, will the recording of this webinar be sent? Will a link be sent to everyone? Yes, a link will be sent to everyone. And the next question is are the customized items protected from version upgrades?
So yeah, the way IBM recommends is for you to, especially between 3 and 4, is for you to put these customizations, especially all the branding and all these changes to your JSPs, into the customization folder. Then you can actually back that up, then restore them into your new after your upgrade and test them out. There may be minor changes, but it would not mean that you have to recreate them all over again.
Okay. Can widgets added to the home page in the example, can they also be added to communities?
Yes, you can add widgets to communities as well.
Okay.
You can add them to communities, profiles, and the home page.
All right, excellent. The tag files are not recognized from the customization folder. Do you have any other way to implement tags?
Could you repeat the question?
I think the question is I think somebody has tried tag files, but they're not recognized in the customization folder. Do you know of any other way to add tag files? Maybe if that question isn't clear enough, maybe we can get maybe rephrase the question. We'll come back to that one.
Right. And maybe I have to check with someone else who's worked with tag files.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just trying to read these questions here to make sure I read them correctly. Yeah, I'm not sure what what the question is asking here, but let me just double check, see if I get this right. Have you found any details about the CSS used by Connections? Has the CSS changed in the new version 4.0? I think that's the right phrasing we're looking for in the questions here.
There is actually a PDF that I found where they gave details about, in case you wanted to make modifications in terms of specific color combinations, how to do it and where to do that. I can share the URL for that. It's an IBM document. And with respect to 4.0, we have not done enough, from Marga's side, we have not done enough of exploration on 4.0 yet. When we do that, we will definitely get back on that information.
Okay, perfect. Is it possible to change the application name? For example, can I change the community's name for all places?
So you wanted to change communities, the name of communities itself?
Correct.
Or if they wanted to change, like, the menu item. We know that we can change the menu item. I'm not sure if it can be replaced across board to say, like, communities need not be called communities. We've not at least done that. Definitely you can change it in the menu, you can change it in the links and places like that. But if you want to call it, even in the languaging internally, if you want to call it differently, we've not done that or tried that.
Okay, so possibly, but you haven't tried that to be able to change that so to go across to all new communities. Okay. All right. Good range of questions today, going all over the place here. That's great. So we have one more question here. Is Twitter Bootstrap the best web UI framework? Have you explored any other web UI frameworks?
So we work with multiple web UI frameworks. There are good frameworks coming out from the jQuery side, and Dojo has good UI frameworks as well. Currently, when we look at the grid options in terms of how to have grids and if you want to have layouts in these kind of areas, something similar to what Twitter has, which is kind of very popular at this point in time. Twitter Bootstrap seems to be the one that is most welcome at that place. It is possible to construct your own, and it is possible to use the standardized, the JavaScript frameworks, and then create your own UI framework as well, which is responsive and which has this responsive web design. But this could be a quick startup point for you to create something that looks good and works well as well. That's how we chose Twitter Bootstrap at this point in time.
Okay. Excellent. Is there a way for me to see who has visited my profile, to see everyone who has visited my profile?
No, they would just like to see who has visited their profile. Is there API for that?
Right. They're just wondering if there's a way to be able to view everyone who's looked at their profile on their Connections profile.
Yeah, I don't think that's there yet. LinkedIn Premium, I know allows that, but I'm not sure, I haven't seen that.
Okay. All right, one more question here. Where can I change the translation to German from, sorry, here we're trying to, I don't know if I understand the question here. Can you change the translation to German from something else on your own? So is there a place you can change the translation to German from the follow to something my own? I'm not sure if we understand that. I understand that question. Maybe I think it's if there's a
to me, then I can find the answer.
Oh, I think I get it now. So where it says follow, like if you want to follow somebody, is there a way to translate that to something else? In other words, if I want to say follow me instead of follow, I think that's what they're asking.
Okay. Okay, so it's basically changing the nomenclature. Is that what they're asking?
Yeah, I think so.
I can, Scott, we can send you exactly where it can be done because I don't have the person who's done any of that with me right now. So if you can just send that exact question out, then I can probably get the answer from that person and then send it out to you.
Okay, we'll send that out directly then. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've actually gone over time today. Great questions, everyone. Thank you. I'm sure we could probably spend another 15, 20 minutes with questions. But if you do have questions about customizing connections, we will in the email we send out with the link for the recording, we'll also include Guy's email, and you can certainly send her an email to ask questions. Or if there's services you would like Marga Systems to do for you, I'm sure they would be happy to discuss that with you as well. Okay, well, thank you very much for everyone's time today, Guy and Badri. Thank you so much for your time. Guy, if you'd like to just kind of mention again how they can get in touch with you, that would be fantastic.
Right. Thank you so much, Scott, for hosting us, and thank you, everyone, for attending today. And you can reach me in the email. We'll have my email address, and I will probably send my access to my Twitter account as well, so you can follow me and reach out, and we would be very happy to help you.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon, and we'll see you at the next seminar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Badri.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.